So I'm so excited to be here because although data doesn't sound fun or sexy or interesting, I realized in 2010 when I, as a volunteer parent, started helping collect data that research is happening now, it's happening fast, and a lot of it is around data. It's also around the biosample collection. So I just want to give a plug for the Coriell collection. Like the data that I'm going to talk about today, it's open source, which means researchers from around the world and different types of researchers can access the same thing. I also want to say that I hated science and some things were over my head. So when they talk about cell lines, that means that little bit of blood that you gave or you will give can grow on and on and on and on for a long, long time. So if you have not given a sample, I recommend that you do. My bio today should have just said, Shannon's mom and somebody that learned 10 years of hard lessons collecting data with a lot of enthusiasm, but not correctly. That's my bio. So I'm here today to tell you that your organization has been so forward-thinking. Out of over 10,000 rare diseases, this community has decided that collecting data from patients and the caregivers is critical for getting the research to move forward so that all of those partners that you have out in the hallway can develop treatments for you. So just quickly, RareX is a nonprofit, and we were created out of frustration that organizations like yours were being burdened with the expense and the work of trying to collect data. So we're doing it on behalf of all the rare diseases. We're a platform that collects data, which we'll talk about today. We will be able to connect to data, like biosamples, and we share data. And when I say share or disseminate, I always mean de-identified data. And so we saw where there was a problem and we're trying to solve it. We also realized that when organizations were collecting data on their own, they didn't always collect it correctly or in a way that the researchers had high quality data. So we feel very dedicated to that. And we don't own the data, nor does your organizations. You, as a participant, own and manage your data. That's why some of you have these shirts that say own it. And that is because you, when you enroll, will have a data sharing survey and you say how broadly you want to share your data, or maybe you want to limit it to certain types of researchers. We don't do any analysis on it. We don't sell your data, not even to the nice partners out in the hallway. This data is de-identified and free and available to all types of researchers, including the biotechs and pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so this is your landing page, and some of you may have seen me. I'm out in the hallway for the rest of the morning. This is going to give you some more details about what the data collection is. I think we're all kind of still waking up, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a movement here. Can you stand up if you have at least enrolled in this data collection? All right, fantastic. You guys can sit down, and I'm not going to ask you to stand up for this, but some of you enrolled and you didn't answer the surveys. So that's your homework assignment, is to get back and answer the surveys. Those of you who answered surveys are going to see your data in these charts that I'm going to show you. And that's one of the things I want you all to understand. You're not just giving your data or contributing it to it in a vacuum. You're going to see it, it's going to come back to you. And I'll show you how. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to the that first page I showed you. You're going to set up your account. There's double verification because we really want to keep this safe. There's going to be that patient consent that we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that it was very clear to you what's being done with the data, and then that data sharing survey I told you about. There's then going to be a survey called Health and Development. I call it the head to toe survey. For every yes in that survey, you will later see a level 2 survey. So if you say yes, I have eye and vision issues, then when you complete that survey, you'll see an eye and vision survey in your database. This is my favorite slide because on the left is how most organizations have data. They collect it, and then researchers have to know their disease exists, they have to know they have data, and then they have to come knock on the door and ask for access to it. And that organization then has to do all the work to make sure that the de-identified data goes to the researcher. That's a one-off. At RareX, any rare diseases, including undiagnosed, can contribute data into that big circle. And any researchers around the world, even if they've never heard of HCU, go through one door and they query data. And if they're querying data across vision loss, but they've never heard of HCU, guess what? They're going to stumble across your data. And they may discover that this is a community that they want to start doing research in. And as a parent of a rare disease patient, to me, that's really magical. So as of when I did these slides, and I know these numbers went up yesterday, there were 27 patients enrolled with HCU, and from several different countries. Now, we are currently only in English, but in the coming year, there will be several other translations. Translations are done based on us meeting the data regulations in other countries. We are very specific about making sure that we are doing things correctly. So we will, as we meet the data regulations or confirm that we've met the data regulations, we can start doing the translations. We've covered a lot of states. I collected a few more yesterday. And I'm showing these not because they're super interesting charts, because these are examples of what you could be seeing. And are you being heard here? Did you contribute to this? And if not, your voice isn't there. And so I really want to explain to you all that the more of you that give data, the more researchers are going to be attracted to do this research, but the more you're being heard. If you're telling the story of what your challenges are day to day, this is how you're going to do it. So this one says how many have had genetic testing and newborn screening. I don't know if this is accurate because there was only 14 responses, but this is a really important bit of information. Is newborn screening picking up what it needs to? And this is data that we can take other places to make that argument if it is or isn't doing its job. Of the 14 respondents, and I just want to point out, 27 people have enrolled, but they didn't get to all the surveys. So we only had 14 respondents about the genetic testing. And you can see there that there were most suspected that there was a disease, and there was one that did not. This is the dashboard I was telling you about. And you see that where you've completed a survey, you can always go back and change an answer because things change. My daughter didn't have seizures, and then she did. So when something changes, you go in and you edit your answer to yes, and if we have another survey about that symptom, then it'll appear on your dashboard. We tell you how long it's going to take. You can do these surveys in any order, but the more you answer, the more they'll understand about this disease. We ask in that first survey head to toe because some of you have more than one disease. Maybe you got, psoriasis from your mother. Report on it. There might be someone doing a clinical trial for psoriasis. Has nothing to do with HCU, but you could still be located in this database for recruitment. So answer everything, no matter whether it's related to HCU or not. This is how we're going to find out what people have in common and what people don't. So this is just an example. You can't see it here, but they're very general questions in health and development. Are there behavior or psychiatric issues? Are there issues with growth? Yes, no, or unsure. If you have a yes or an unsure, then you get that second level survey later. This is the example of the second level survey. So I picked eye and vision. Pretty general questions. If you say yes, it says age the symptoms first appeared and age of diagnosis. For some of you, that's going to be the same time. But for many of us, we went to our doctors and talked about things and they poo-pooed it. Oh, things are just changing. And so there's a gap between that answer for some people, and we need to know that. So these are just some of the other systems of the body that were affected. So a majority reported on vision, sleep. If you're not getting sleep, you know it, and let's face it, the whole world should know how little sleep we're getting. So this is your opportunity to be heard. And one reported immune. So imagine if 100 people were in here, and I could show you what the statistics were for 100 or 1,000. This would be a gold mine of data. Okay, and the previous one was classical HCU, and this one is questions about the other HCUs. So I said you own it. This is about data sharing. So how broadly do you want to share data? I want to share my daughter's data with anybody and everybody. So there's a question with one of two answers. I want to share my data with anybody doing any kind of research, or researchers doing research on health, medical and biomedical research. And in the survey, it will give you examples so that you don't feel like you're stumped. You answer yes to one or the other of them. So the majority of you that have enrolled have said, I'm happy to share my data with anybody. You can change that answer, so this is your way of controlling how your data is shared. There's an opportunity for you to share your name and your email with your organizations, any organizations that are in this disease space. This doesn't mean that we're sharing your medical information or anything else. It's just your name and your email so that you can be in touch with the organizations and they can tell you about upcoming events. So have you given biosample in the past? And many of you have, of the 14 that answered the question. This is important to us because down the road, we want to be able to go to your organization and say, do you know that there's a lot of people that, gave to Coriell? We should get the word out that, researchers should be going to Coriell for this. So it's a way of us being able to inform your community. Are you interested in giving biomedical? So, yes, there were some. There's also a question about, are you interested in having your medical records connected to RareX? Doesn't mean that we're going to magically connect to your medical records, but if 80% of you said yes, if the opportunity was there to connect your medical records with your data in RareX, then we would inform your organizations that this is something that you may want to invest in. And then we have caregivers versus patients. I, as a caregiver, think that we as caregivers tend to do more research because we're taking care of somebody else. And as patients, we don't always take our meds, we don't always go to the doctor on time, we don't always participate in research. This is a self-care thing. If you are a patient, you are an expert on this disease and you need to be heard and you need to take the time to enroll in this. And I know your time is limited, but this is going to go so far and it's really worth the effort. So who should participate? Or why should you participate? Because we just established the fact that you're very busy. One is that we're going to give this data back in the form of these charts. So we're giving data back to you. So it's, you can learn from this. In my own situation, I was able to take data about my daughter to her IEP meeting to get a one-on-one because I was able to show them that there was a need in this disease. I didn't have to wait for research to happen and 5 years for a PubMed to come out. So this data is tangible, and it's something that you can use to take to your physician. How many here had a physician that was familiar with HCU when you went to them the first time? Exactly. So one out of the whole room. So you all are the experts. You're the ones that are informing your caregivers. So having this data, and you can share it in any way you want. This is also for those of you interested in being recruited for studies or clinical trials. When those researchers go in and they query, they can find people that look like they're going to meet the criteria for their studies. They will come to us with a unique ID because they don't know your name, and we will then contact you by email, letting you know that there's an opportunity. And then it's up to you whether you want to be involved. I've said this a few times, and I'm going to say it again. More eyes on the data. Remember that in the beginning I said if somebody has never heard of HCU, they could stumble across your data? We're going to be launching a vision loss consortia in a few months. Lots of different diseases that have lost vision for various reasons. So that we're going to be attracting researchers that are interested in this field. They're actually going to be helping us decide which are the best surveys to collect the best quality data. So, think of all the different ways that this data is going to be seen. The other thing I want to point out is, and this is true of all online data, is you can update this anytime you want. I've told a few of you, my daughter's in a natural history study at NIH. We went for our annual visit last month. She was worse than she's ever been. They were very concerned. That's the data they got. 2 weeks later, the neurologist changed her meds. She's doing fantastic. NIH won't know that until 10 months from now when I go back. So this isn't a snapshot. This is a story. This is every time something changes, you can go in there and you can report it. And the researchers will see all those time spots. This is not in place of any natural history study. If you are in a study, stay in the study, and I applaud you for it. This is complementary to it. So this doesn't replace anything, and when there's another study that comes down the road, 2 months or 2 years from now, I encourage you to participate in it, because those researchers are also going to be coming to RareX for information. So I don't want you to think that this is going to replace anything that exists. So I'm going to stop there. I also want to tell you that there's an opportunity to upload your genetic report here. And some of you have said that oh, I can't find it, it was 20 years ago. There are studies, I think Trevere is one of them, where if you go into their study, genetic reporting can be done. With that genetic report, once you upload that, that means all the genetic data that was on that report will be next to all the symptom data that you're entering. So those researchers are going to have this really robust information. So when Mitchell from Coriell said that you need clinical information, the more medical information you can attach to that blood sample, the more valuable it's going to be to those researchers. And the same goes here. The more information that you put into the system, the more that your voice will be heard and they'll see you. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to be out in the hall for anybody. If anybody did enroll and hasn't gotten a T-shirt, let me know. And that's it. Do we have time for any questions?
Yeah, we have 2 minutes.
Okay. I know, data's not that interesting, but it really is important.
I'll make a comment here from the back and then.
The lady in the green sweater, did you have a question?
One thing I want to make sure families understand, so homocystinuria, we've talked about it quite a bit this weekend. It's a confusing term because for so long classical homocystinuria hijacked it. And so I want to make sure that when we talk about the Homocystinurias Data Collection Program, that families with severe MTHFR, cobalamin disorders, C, D, E, F, G, J, X, they all realize that there's a home for them under HCU Network America and the RareX HCU Data Collection Program. And one of the things that we've been emphasizing, Brittany is here, she's done a Facebook Live with me. Liz is here somewhere, she's done a Facebook Live with me. It's really a quick process. What I like to equate it to is like going through the coffee line at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. It's that quick to enroll. And most of the surveys, because we are the experts of our own data, they're really quick. They may say 20 minutes, but the truth is that most of them are like, if you say 20, it's going to take 10 because they're like, yes, oh, definitely not. And so it's really quick. It's really easy. And it's kind of like once you get into the groove of a couple surveys, you're like, oh, this is quick. I can get this done. And it will make a huge, huge difference.
I can tell you as a caregiver who feels helpless most of the time, when I do something like this, I feel like finally there's something I can do to help my daughter. And in 2010, I said to you, I didn't think research was going to happen in her lifetime. She's been in a clinical trial. It's happening now. And again, I keep saying the same thing. Stand and be counted. Be one of those people that next time you get together, we say, who is enrolled and answered surveys, and the room can stand up. Because that's how we're going to let everybody know about it. The blue bracelets are awesome. I'm going to keep mine. These are for raising awareness. But what you really want the research world to know, and the medical community, is what is life like HCU really feel like? What are your quality of life issues? And so if you have not enrolled and you're interested or you have any questions, I'll be out in the hallway. Thank you so much for your time.